Hello, I'm Ed Vasquez from the Agriculture Research Service and the Eastern Oregon Agriculture Research Center, here to present today's Ag Minute. This week we're discussing disturbance and stress in rangeland ecosystems. Disturbances such as fire, flooding, and pathogen outbreaks may be directly or indirectly related to climate. Stochastic climatic events may hasten disturbance-mediated transitions. In many instances, it is difficult to determine the extent to which climatic change and disturbance are responsible for driving ecosystem change. The difficulty in making this distinction is, in part, due to the fact that shifts in vegetation may lag well behind the climatic changes that drive them. Disturbance and climate can interact to offset or reinforce ecosystem change. Disturbance effects may be minimal when climatic conditions are favorable or magnified when climatic conditions are extreme. For example, grassland retrogression associated with livestock grazing may be mitigated in years of normal or above normal rainfall and magnified during years of below normal precipitation. Disturbances serve to overcome vegetation inertia by lessening the dominance of established plants and creating opportunities for new plants which may be better adapted to the present climatic conditions. The terms disturbance, perturbation, and stress have been at times used inconsistently and ambiguously. In fact, these terms are difficult to define because ecological systems are probably always in a non-equilibrium state at some spatial or temporal scale as they are continuously adjusting to fluctuating abiotic and biotic conditions. Examples of abiotic and biotic conditions are rainfall and competition, respectively. Therefore, quantifying deviation from normal, or the degree to which a system has returned to normal following the alleviation of stress or disturbance, is difficult. Disturbances are categorized and quantified with respect to type, for example, fire or flood, frequency, common versus episodic, extent, local scale versus landscape scale, and intensity. Fires may burn hot or relatively cool. Disturbances are generally perceived as negative because they are accompanied by elements of damage. Perturbation can be viewed as the response of an ecological component or system to disturbance as indicated by deviations relative to a specified reference condition. Stress is specific factors that adversely affect the physiology or function of organisms and ecosystems. This week, my discussion will emphasize rates and dynamics of change, the interactive effects of natural and anthropogenic stress and disturbance, susceptibility to change, and the prognosis for ecosystem recovery. Once ecosystem change has occurred, relaxation of stress and disturbance or an improvement of environmental conditions will not necessarily enable a system to return to its previous state. The question is, how far can ecological systems be pushed before crossing a line of ecological function that separates one steady state from another? For example, in semi-arid and subhumid grasslands and savannas in North and South America, tall and mid-height grasses are typically the competitive dominance under light grazing. Woody plant density is low, and grass competition and periodic fire suppress the recruitment. With continued intensification of grazing, desirable perennial grasses are replaced with annuals and weak perennial grasses of low litter and nutrient quality. Bare ground increases and promotes warmer, drier microclimates and wind and water erosion. Unpalatable evergreens shrubs adapted to the harsher microclimate and low nutrient environments may now establish. As woody plant density increases, herbaceous production declines further, thus increasing the grazing pressure on the remaining herbaceous patches. By this time, a physiognomic threshold has been crossed, whereby soils, seed bank, and vegetative regenerative potentials have been modified such that succession will now progress toward shrubland or woodland, even if grazing pressure is relaxed. The idea that rangeland vegetation exhibits multiple states and transitions among them has been referred to generally as the state and transition model. State and transition models have provided a useful framework for highlighting critical events that create management hazards or unfavorable transitions and opportunities for interventions or conditions for favorable transitions. We now need a better quantitative and mechanistic understanding of why these transitions occur and how biotic and abiotic factors interact to promote or discourage them. From an applied perspective, we need to clarify how management actions before, during, and after critical events might alter transition probabilities. A better understanding of transition mechanisms will also help identify and clarify key monitoring variables. Important changes that affect system response to perturbation events may go undetected unless variables with appropriate sensitivity are monitored. Thus, there is an important need to develop sensitive indicators that give advance warnings so that ecosystem management can be adjusted to minimize the likelihood of undesirable transitions. For the past couple of decades, there has been growing acceptance that anthropogenic disturbances often produce altered vegetation states that are stable enough to make the changes practically irreversible. State and transition models organize a combined understanding of scientists and managers to help explain ecosystem dynamics across variable rangeland landscapes. Widespread observations indicate that once critical disturbance thresholds are crossed, degradation of the structure and function of rangelands will not necessarily be halted or reversed simply by decreasing or removing anthropogenic stresses. Therefore, management should A. Seek to minimize displacement over critical degradation thresholds, B. Recognize that infrequent extreme environmental events, for example drought, may push systems past critical thresholds, and C. Explicitly identify and characterize ecological processes, plant-soil biota population parameters, and soil physical-chemical properties that may provide managers advance warning that a critical transition threshold is being approached. With this type of information, management could then be adjusted to avert undesirable transitions or initiate strategic actions to promote desirable transitions. This is Ed Vasquez. Thanks for listening, and have a great weekend.